I'm sure by now you know that CHOP is no longer. Well, we're going to talk a little bit about that, and I've got some things that I think maybe you haven't seen about it. And then I've got lots of other stuff to share with you that are some speeches and things that I think you're really going to want to hear. So stick with me, folks, and I'll be right back. Hey everybody, this is Deb with Truthfication Chronicles, and oh, wow, I've got so many good things for you in this. Stick with me. I'm going to get to CHOP in a minute, but I've got a few preliminary things that I really want to share with you first, and then I'll be able to focus really in on the CHOP stuff. So, to start out with, I want to show you this. I'm only going to show you part of it because, you know, we YouTubers have to kind of stick together, and I don't want to take views away from Liberty Hound here. So, I do want to share a little bit of this with you, though. This guy stood up at a California meeting that they were having, and I'll tell you what, he lays into them. Listen to this.
After waiting for 2 hours and now getting 2 minutes, I'll get right to the point. This board is pretending that for the last 3 months, your emperor, Dr. Levin, has not been against a mask declaration. Now, all of a sudden, we're pretending that masks are everything, even forcing speakers to use masks. I would like the board to take a position. Was Dr. Levin wrong for those 3 months? And if he was this wrong, why has he not been removed? Why has he not been fired for being so catastrophically wrong? Or do you not really believe he was wrong? You're just wearing these masks because it is a signal of your great virtue.
Damn! So I'm not going to play the rest of it, but you need to watch the rest of it because that's just the beginning. He gets into it, and I tell you, oh, it's really good. And the little extras that the Liberty Hound put in, really great. So, you know, I recommend that. I'll leave the link down below as always, and you can watch the whole thing. But wow, he tells it like it is. And I think you really need to be aware of that, what's going on. And I want to thank Judith Murray for this one because she mentioned this. It's a really great poem from this guy, and he's talking about what it's like being in the working class and how everybody's trying to tell him that, you know, our voices don't matter anymore. And he nails it as well. It's very interesting. So that's another good one that I really think you need to check out, because he doesn't have a lot of views. He only has 414 views, but I'd like to see that go up majorly because this needs to go around and be shared because it was excellent. And then there's this. This was shared by Movie Maker Wannabe, and I thank you for that. I always like the United Spot. They come up with some of the most creative things, and this was a classic. So, yeah, you need to see this one. It was the Democrat family here to the tune of the Addams Family, and it was well done, too. It makes you laugh. And so I'll leave the link to that down below. And then this one, Live Mad, was the one that gave me this one. And this is just, if you want to help out this Patriot, she's got a real problem right now. And she has never been monetized, so you have to understand she doesn't make anything off of her videos. I think she's had, 400 videos or something. So, you know, if you could maybe send a few dollars her way, she has a real septic problem right now. And if you own a house and you understand the problems that a septic can cause, you'll know what's going on with her. And money is very tight, as it is with a lot of people, and I understand that. But I just thought I'd bring this to your attention. So, you know, you can look at it and see if that's something that maybe you want to help her out a little bit. Thanks again to all three of you. I really appreciate when you guys give me some ideas for different things. Well, let's go on. This one, is going to just kind of tick you off. So this is from a Florida council. And guess what? They brought in, instead of a pastor to do the opening prayer, no, they bring in an atheist. And he thinks he's going to be funny because he prays to just about anyone he can think of in this supposed prayer. Now, there were 3 people that got up and left when he was doing this.
Everyone would please rise for the invocation, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Vice Mayor Scott Maxwell.
And so you got 2 leaving over there and 1 leaving over here. So at least they had the integrity to do that. But here he goes. Oh, there was another one that left too.
Duly noted. Our collective atheism, which is to say loving empathy, scientific evidence, and critical thinking, leads us to believe that we can create a better, more equal community without religious divisions. May we pray together. Mother Earth, we gather today in your redeeming and glorious presence to invoke your eternal guidance in the universe, the original creator of all things. May the efforts of this council blend the righteousness of Allah with the all-knowing wisdom of Satan. May Zeus, the great God of justice, grant us strength tonight. Jesus might forgive our shortcomings, while Buddha enlightens us through his divine affection. We praise you, Krishna, for the sanguine sacrifice that freed us all. After all, if Almighty Thor is with us, who can ever be against us? And finally, for the bounty of logic, reason, and science, we simply thank the atheists, agnostics, humanists, who now account for 1 in 5 Americans, and growing rapidly. In closing, let us, above all, love one another, not to obtain mythical rewards for ourselves now, hereafter, or based on superstitious threats of eternal damnation, but rather embrace secular-based principles of morality and do good for goodness sake. And so we prayed, so what? Thank you, Council.
Yeah, wasn't that just sweet? I tell you, that man, I don't want to be him on Judgment Day. Woohoo, I really don't. You know, I worked with an awful lot of atheists when I was in the chat rooms in Yahoo with our ministry a long time ago. And I'll tell you, there are really 2 kinds of atheists as I see it. One kind that has just determined that there is no God and nothing, even if God stood right before them and stood face to face and proved that he was God, they still wouldn't believe in him. And then there's the other ones that are not really atheists, they're just agnostics, because they've never really seen any proof of God, so they assume that there is no God. But if you talk to them enough, sometimes you can get them to see that, there really is evidence out there. You just have to look for it. So that's, my 2 cents on that. And when you come down to the atheists, there's a contradiction when you're talking about atheists and morality. Because really, if there were no God, there's no real standard for morality. It would be what each person thinks is right. And well, if you know the Bible, you know in Judges that everyone did as they thought was right, and that caused them quite a mess. Really, we get our morality from God. And what's right and what's wrong. There's a reason why all of humanity has similar morality about certain things like murder and about taking care of each other and those kinds of things. So I don't want to get into all the religious parts of it. That's for my other channel. But I did want to point this out because this is where we're at, folks. And they felt like they needed to bring this person in. And only, 4 of them left? Thought that was kind of sad. So anyway, yeah, share it around. Let people know that that's what's going on in our country right now. And I don't know exactly where in Florida this was, but probably a Democrat area. I'm kind of thinking a Republican area wouldn't do that. So anyway, then I wanted to show you this. I thought it was kind of amusing that this guy, and he says, was Fox News medical A-team. So he is a doctor, of course, and he says Dr. Fauci says a COVID-19 vaccine will be in America very soon. If the vaccine arrives, will you be taking it? Why or why not? Well, look at the results. Yeah, and this was the final results. 27,000 votes. So it was not just a handful of people, but look at that. Overwhelming majority said nope. And when you go through and you look at the reasons, a lot of times it's, just not seeing them as safe, because there are other ingredients in them sometimes that, they don't put out there and they don't let people know. And some of those ingredients, if you look them up, like formaldehyde, not exactly something you want to be putting into your body. So I'm going to leave that. I'll leave the link down below if you want to tell people about it. But I think it's something that we need to be aware of, that there are a lot of people in the United States that feel like this about this vaccine. And there is a growing fear, I think, in a lot of people that it's going to be forced on us. Well, that's not true. That's not going to happen, at least not as long as Donald Trump is our president. Now, if he wouldn't happen to win in November, it might be a different story, but that's not going to happen, right? Well, A.G. Barr did an interview with Ted Cruz on the verdict, and I'll put the link to that down below too. I forgot to bring up that particular video, but it was really good. It was a really good video, and he was talking about how they have 500 investigations underway into these riots and things. And so they're really looking into it, and they already have, the FBI put out a thing today on Twitter I saw. They had pictures, like from videos and things, of the people that did some destruction, and they're looking for them because, yes, President Trump signed an executive order today to deal with the issue of pulling down federal monuments or defacing federal monuments. So I don't have the text for that because it wasn't on the website yet. So as soon as I get that, I will probably put it in the video you'll watch tomorrow. So anyway, I wanted to leave this article because that's what he was saying. The federal government is best positioned to address this kind of violence and lawlessness after it occurs because we don't have FBI agents walking the beat. And in fact, when the real violence started around May 25th, 26th, and so forth, we started using our joint terrorist task forces around the country. And there are 35 of them around the country. It involves all state and local in those jurisdictions and all the federal agencies. And it's the system we designed to follow terrorists. And now they are starting to go full bore, cranking out investigations, indictments against the people who are involved in this violence. So yes, they are doing that. And again, I'll leave the link to this article. Plus, I'll also put the one to the Ted Cruz video podcast thing. Well, this I thought was interesting. I came across this article and I thought, 2 truths and 31 lies Joe Biden has told about his work in the civil rights movement. Well, he actually nails it, this guy does. And, he talks about Biden plagiarizing his speeches, which he did, and he really got nailed for him in his first time out, I think when he was running for president. And, he's got a lot of good stuff in here about Biden. But I got to tell you about this guy. And really, the only things he says that are positive, I should say the truths, they're not positive, because it's where he said that he wasn't actually an activist in the 60s with the civil rights movement. So, yeah, that is true. Biden was not. Basically, Biden was, not involved at all. And so that part was true. And then there's another one down here, truth number 2, that in his autobiography, I think, is colorful. He's a great storyteller. When I purchased the book, which is 400 pages long, I was curious how he would frame his involvement in the civil rights movement. I read the book from cover to cover in light of what Joe Biden is now again saying in the 2020 presidential election about his work in the civil rights movement. What I found in his autobiography shocked me. He reduces his entire involvement in the civil rights movement to 2 sentences on page 43. It reads, "I worked there, a swimming pool, back in the early 60s, when freedom rides, sit-ins, and Bull Connor's dogs and fire hoses were starting to get people's attention. Like everybody in America in those years, I was getting dramatic lessons about segregation and civil rights from newspapers and television." Yeah, that's it. And then he goes on and he talks about several of the lies that Biden has told about his involvement with the civil rights movement. Okay? So I thought, well, that's a really good article, but look at who it's by. It's by this guy named Shaun King. Now, if you look at this picture, you probably can't really tell too well if he's white or black. But he is on Twitter, and he makes the claim that he's biracial. Well, we'll talk about that in just a minute. But here's the thing. So he says, yes, I think the statues of the white European they claim is Jesus should also come down. They are a form of white supremacy. Always have been. In the Bible, when the family of Jesus wanted to hide and blend in, guess where they went? They didn't go to hide and blend in. They just went to be out of the country so they couldn't be caught because Herod was after them. So the blending in, yeah, not part of it. Plus, remember, 1,000 or so years before that, the Israelites had been in Egypt. I'm sure there were probably still some of them left down there. So maybe they went down there to live. But anyway, they did go to Egypt, not Denmark, tear them down. Well, Denmark didn't exist at the time. So, the landmass existed, but the country didn't. But Egypt was there, and they went down to Egypt because it was a civilized nation at the time, fairly civilized. And they needed a place to go, and it was not that far. So that's where they went. So it was not because people of their color were down there. Okay, Jesus wasn't white, as we have Caucasians these days. He was Middle Eastern, so it probably means he had more olive-colored skin. So I don't really care. I don't care what color the statue is. There is just no way in this world you can ever make Jesus into a form of white supremacy. You just can't. So when you're trying to do that, it's just not right. Well, he got a lot of flack for this. Obviously, he got a lot of flack for it because he said he's received about 20 death threats in the past 12 hours since I said that statues of white European Jesus are a tool of oppression for white supremacy and should be taken down. It pretty much proves my point. Your religion is actually whiteness with a Christian patina. Yeah, okay. No, it's not. It just, people see Jesus in different colors because, it's just how they view him. And I don't really care. It doesn't matter. I knew some people that were all upset because in the paintings, Jesus always had long hair. And they literally, to put the painting in their church, they painted out the hair, the long hair, because they didn't believe that Jesus had long hair. Well, I don't care. I don't care if Jesus had long hair or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't change anything in his message that he gave to us. That is just so immaterial. And the same thing about the color of his skin. It really doesn't matter. Not at all. And then he goes down here and he says, I'm a practicing Christian. I am an ordained minister and was a senior pastor for many years. This should scare every Christian because what I'm going to show you in a little bit, first of all, the whole thing about tearing down statues of Jesus, but then, as we go on, this guy, he was a senior pastor for many years. I'm not sure what kind of Christianity he was practicing. I'd like to know. Well, I have a hunch, and I hope I can do a video on it later on, but yeah, it might surprise some of you. If my critiques of the white supremacy within the Christian world bother you to the point of wanting to kill me, you are the problem. Well, I agree. You shouldn't want to kill somebody for doing this. But if you're upset with him, that's different. Christian whiteness has always been dangerous. No, it hasn't. No. So that's what he has to say. Well, as I said, the guy kind of looks like either light-skinned black or darker skin white. It's hard to tell. Well, so this guy says, so I get up this morning and my wife tells me about some BLM activist that wants to target statues of Jesus because it's white supremacy. Confessing I never heard of this guy, Shaun King, I looked him up and it turns out he's just another self-loathing fraud. Okay, so you gotta see this one. I mean, really, I couldn't believe this. This is CNN, too.
Welcome back, everyone. Here's a breaking news tonight. Shaun King, he is a leading voice for the Black Lives Matter movement, facing some very tough questions today and tonight about his own race. A family member tells CNN that both King's parents are white. But when I asked him tonight if he is legally black or white, initially he did not answer, but later he referred to himself as biracial. But then when I asked him if that's what it shows on his birth certificate, I did not hear back from him. No answer.
So no answer on it. All right. Anyway, I will leave that for you. You could watch it. There's more to it, but I just wanted to get that part out. So this guy who is trying to make it out that he's black isn't. He's got both white parents. So how is he biracial? Just, the math does not add up. So, anyway, that's who this Shaun King is. So he lies about being black. He must know Elizabeth Warren. Gee. So, anyway, and you can see here, Shaun King, his Twitter bio, and you can see, he's with some pretty definite activist groups. So he is definitely an activist. But anyway, so I wanted to share that with you because the black community not only has to worry about their own people saying some stupid stuff sometimes, they got to worry about white guys pretending to be black and they're saying stupid stuff. So anyway, let's see a black guy who really nails it here. This man right here, Shaun King says he was a senior pastor, and may God help the church that he was the senior pastor of, because I tend to think they're not following biblical Christianity. But this guy, this is a pastor right here, because he's not afraid to tell the truth.
And then there's the problem of death. If we're going to argue logically, the argument got to hold up on both sides. All the killing in our community ain't coming from white people. Come on, say amen if you can. We are killing one another. Our old people are scared to get out at night in their own community. They're not scared of white people. They're scared of young black boys on the street. Amen. No. All the killing that's going on ain't going on in River Oaks. It's going on in South Union, in Third Ward, on Cullen and Martin Luther King. Every street that's named after Martin Luther King across America is riddled with crime and death in the name of a man who stood for nonviolence. The church has got to accept some responsibility, because we in here singing and shouting on Sunday morning. Let's get out here and go tell that young black boy and that young black girl, we gonna teach you how to love yourself more than somebody taught you how to hate yourself. Pull your pants up. Take your nasty pajamas off when you get up in the morning to go outside. Wish I had somebody to help me. Act like you got good sense. Talk like somebody's raising you. A whole lot of our problems are self-inflicted. White people ain't breaking in my house. I wish I had a witness here.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, he just nailed it right there. Now that's a pastor. Pastors have to be free to be able to tell the truth. And you know what? I would even add to that it's not a black only issue. There's a lot of problems because white parents have not been teaching their kids either. And because of that, you've got this perfect little storm, the two groups of kids that don't really know how to behave properly. And they're all coming together, and now they're old enough that they can vote and they can go to CHOP and CHAZ or whatever, and they can make their own little country, or at least they think they can. So I really thought you needed to hear that one too. It was excellent. Well, Ryan here says this is the leader of Black Lives Matter, talking about burning down this country if they don't get the outcome they want. Now, I don't know if you've already heard this or not, but here it is.
Burn it down. You said burn it down. It's time. So that makes me think that you want to burn it down.
I said if this country doesn't give us what we want, then we will burn down this system and replace it. All right, and I could be speaking figuratively. Okay. I could be speaking literally. It's a matter of interpretation. Like,
now he did go on from there, but I heard the full clip, and really, This is essentially what he said. And this should bother all Americans too, because this isn't how our government works. We don't cave to bullies. And that's essentially what they're saying is we don't want to go through the proper legal system, the governmental system that's set up in our country. We are going to bully you and we are going to threaten you and terrorize you until you do what we want. And that's what has happened. And I showed you in a video, a few days ago, I had a video where I showed you that they were pressuring the Iowa governor. And sure enough, they got their demands met because she caved. So this is happening and it's scary. It should be scary because this isn't how our country was made to work. If you don't like something in our country, you don't have the right to terrorize other people until you get your way. That's what little children do. They threaten you like that. They hold their breath. They throw a little tantrum. And that's what we're seeing happening. Because if you are an adult and you don't agree with the way things are going in our government, in our country, you get involved. You step up to the plate. You actually run for office, or you contact the people who are in office that are representing you, and you get it done legally. That's how you do it, not this way. And so the idea that they think they can just burn down our entire system, it's coming from outside the United States. This is not from here. And as you've heard me talk before, this is what George Soros does. You can follow him back through various countries and you can see this is what he did. He got people rebelling like this. He got people starting to riot and vandalize and terrorize the majority of the citizens. And they would terrorize those in authority, so then they would get their way and they'd get their demands met. Well, this is not going to happen here. Fortunately or unfortunately, I'm not sure which, but over last weekend, CHAZ or CHOP, whichever you want to call it right now, had a little problem and someone died because of a shooting there. And another person was hospitalized. I think that was the only death. I don't know. There may have been another one, but it was not a good scene. And they wouldn't let the cops in. And, you know, they were trying to restore some peace, but it wasn't happening. Well, that put pressure on their mayor. And now, supposedly, CHOP has been disbanded. Supposedly. But I want to show you this right here because this is an official Seattle.gov website. And this lady is an official in Seattle. She is the District 3 Central Seattle Councilwoman, I guess. And this is her official page. So she had a statement here about the shooting. And she says, "Our deepest condolences go out to the loved ones of the black protester who was tragically killed this morning by gunfire at the Capitol Hill organized protest." And that's CHOP, right? "Socialist Alternative and I stand in solidarity with the family and friends of the victim and with the injured protester now in the hospital, as well as with all community members and fellow activists. Although we await confirmation of the details of the killing." Okay. Do you see that right there? She says, we're waiting for the confirmation of the details. She doesn't know the details. She's not been told the details. All she has right now are rumors. She hasn't had any confirmation on it. There are indications that this may have been a right-wing attack. Do you see what they've done? If so, this would not be the first such attack on the Capitol Hill Black Lives Matter protest. Where is her evidence for that? There's nothing. This is a wrap-up smear right here. This is how they do it. She says it, they report on it in the news, and then all of a sudden, it must be true. It's in the news. So that's what she's doing right here, trying to frame people on the right for the violence. Because of course it couldn't be anyone on the left. It can't be any of our protesters. Oh no. Well, she says, as many recall, an armed man drove into the protest action on June 8th and shot black activist Dan Gregory, who had heroically intervened to stop the driver. Okay, I don't know that situation. I've should have checked on it, and I didn't. But still, if the guy was white or the guy was black or right wing, or how do you know? How do we know what that was? It's their reporting. It could just be some guy that was white and they assumed that he was right wing. We don't know. I've not heard of it. I didn't hear anything about it. So, yeah, we need immediate solidarity with the protest at the CHOP and our unity in our movement against reactionary violence. Our movement refuses to be intimidated. It's like, do you not see? Can I show you the mirror? Do you not see that you're the ones intimidating people? Do you not see that the people in CHOP intimidated every person that lived in that area and every business to the point where they had to be frightened for their lives? The business people couldn't open their stores. Do you understand that? Again, psychological projection. This is what's going on in this article here. And she goes on and says, it is no accident that right-wing hate and violence has grown dramatically with Donald Trump in the White House. It is not true. That statement is totally false. You know, they talk about it, right-wing hate and violence. No, the violence is coming from the left. Take a look. It's coming from the left. The right wing, we're not doing stuff. We didn't go and push people out of their homes and keep them from having their businesses. We didn't burn businesses. We didn't graffiti everywhere. Oh no, it was the left. So where do you get off, honey, telling us that it's Trump's fault? I don't think so. Really? And she goes on, if this killing turns out to be a right-wing attack, again, she has no proof. She's making an assumption, and because of that, the left wing, they're going to pick that up, the media, and that's what they're going to focus on. Oh, no, even though it has no basis in reality. But she's going to blame Trump for it because President Trump bears direct responsibility since he has fomented reactionary hatred specifically against the peaceful Capitol Hill occupation. It has not been peaceful. They may have shown it on TV, you know, all the peaceful parts of it, but overall there were rapes, there was this murder, there were shootings in different places. And it was not safe. There were theft. You know, I covered that in a different one, too, where the guy locked up his tent by zipping it. And he thought that was going to keep him out and save his laptop and his $400. But it didn't work. And so, you know, she wants to think that there was, just love and peace in Capitol Hill. Well, no, it wasn't. So she can't imagine that any violence came from anyone in CHOP. Although it did. So she goes on and says, President Trump even threatened to intervene with federal troops. He should have. I really wish he would have on that. Also responsible are the conservative and corporate media outlets, both locally and nationally, which have themselves whipped up right-wing hate by completely misrepresenting the nature of the peaceful protest occupation. Again, they keep saying it. She can say it as much as she wants, but peaceful protest? It was not. It was not. There were several, you know, Jack Posobiec and I forget who all, but there were several conservative media people who went in there. They got treated pretty poorly. They got pushed around. It was not nice. They got yelled at a lot and everything. Had stuff thrown at them a few times. Yeah, so the peaceful protest, that's the lie that they keep promoting. Doesn't make it true. So anyway, and of course, you know, Seattle's establishment Mayor Jenny Durkin and Police Chief Carmen Best also share responsibility for having portrayed our protest movement as violent. So they're even blaming this mayor, and she's the one that was supporting him and allowed him to do it. And really, the police chief allowed him too. So it's kind of funny. They don't seem to like anybody. They really don't. It's everybody else's fault. Boy, I know people like that, don't you? It's always somebody else's fault. It's never mine. You can't blame me. It's got to be somebody else's fault. So anyway, they had to develop a self-defense committee. Oh, why do you have to have a self-defense committee? Well, they had to have it because it was becoming violent sometimes. And because of that, they needed people to be able to defend themselves because, of course, they don't have police, right? They just have a few people who walk around with guns, which is kind of odd. And they had to have some way to protect themselves, right? But see, she's couching it as they have to protect themselves from us mean old right-wingers. Yeah, that's just what they try to do. Remember, Antifa does that with self-defense. They call it self-defense, but they just, if you watch the Project Veritas video that came out on them, they redefined what self-defense was. Self-defense was not just standing back and when somebody comes at you, defending yourself. Oh no, now it means you can go after them too. That's how Antifa defines self-defense. So I can't help but wonder if that's what's in here. And she talks about it. And then this is what I think is really ironic. Our movement should also demand and insist that the Seattle police fully investigate this attack and be held accountable to bring the killer or killers to justice. Well, you know what? That's what the cops do. But you kick the cops out, remember? Oh, just what audacity here. We don't want the cops in, but hey, when something goes wrong, we want the cops. No, give us the cops. We need the cops to fully investigate this attack. Oh, and then down here in the very next paragraph, we must show our solidarity with the victims of this violence by continuing to build our movement and fight for our demands to defund Seattle police by at least 50%. So here they are. They say we want them to fully investigate, but hey, we're going to defund them. I just don't get it. It's just so insane. You know, I read the verse in Isaiah so many times. The people that call good evil and evil good. These people just, they're not only doing that, but they just are totally illogical about it. It doesn't matter. Oh, so I thought you would want to see that. Well, this guy wrote an article in the Seattle Times about it. And he said, well, the irony of the no cop chop, it showed how much we still need the police after all. It was a pretty good article, actually, because it's like, hey, after the shootings in the past few days near the Capitol Hill anti-police protest zone, the call went out, paradoxically, for the help of the one thing the protest is most arguing against. And this is a quote, that quote from her statement that I just read. But I just thought it was so funny. It wasn't just Sawant with the suddenly mixed message. City Council member Teresa Mosqueda noted in a Monday meeting that we want to make sure that firefighters and EMT have access to do their jobs and help those that need it. I mean, I don't even understand. They don't want them in there, but yet we've got to make sure that they can come in case something goes wrong. It's so nonsensical. So nonsensical. Officially, I believe that the mayor did step in and has pretty much disbanded it. Well, this was on one of the websites or something, and I will put the link to it down below so you can have the whole thing there. But it says, Dear comrades in the struggle, over the last 2 weeks, we achieved what no one thought possible, which is a little scary. We successfully built a self-governing community and convinced city leaders to enact meaningful police reform, including substantial budget cuts to the SPD. Now, that should scare us because they think they successfully built a self-governing community. Of course, they didn't pay for squat. They had all the utilities they wanted. They never shut the lights off on them. They didn't have to pay for anything. They had people donating food so they would have food. And it was having problems with rape and murder and everything else, and they didn't have anybody to help them out with that. So, it's like that was not successful, and it was not self-governing because you still are part of the United States. I hate to tell you this, but no matter what you do, you can't get out of the United States by just doing that and saying, we are no longer part of it. Sorry, not the way it works. And what should really bother us is it says, and convince city leaders to enact meaningful police reform. Again, they bullied the leaders to change what they were doing because they bullied them. This is not how it's supposed to work. So, last night, Solidarity Committee received notice from some of our trusted partners that persons in the park were in danger. Okay, again, they're trying to beef it up and to blame it on the right wing. Oh, those mean old right-wingers, they were coming after us. We immediately implemented our emergency relocation plan, which makes you wonder where they relocated to, successfully evacuating most of the park. Thankfully, no danger materialized. However, we are now left with the reality that very few people remain in our beloved CHOP. Thank goodness. This morning's census, they did a census. Oh, I guess it's okay to do a census there. You just don't want to do one in the United States. I wonder if they asked the people if they were actual citizens of CHOP or not. Finds fewer than 24 people clustered near the East Precinct. 11 additional people, oh, they got 11 more, are at the Space Needle. Last night's BLM march had 71 participants, a number we expect to continue to drop. You think? It is time we shift to the next phase of our organizing and move from direct action to virtual activism. So now they're moving because it didn't work. They didn't get everything they really wanted by doing that. And so they destroyed all the stuff there and everybody's leaving. So, oh gosh, I guess we got to do something else. So let's go on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat. And so that's where they're headed. We have held city officials accountable and can continue to do so in a way that is safe for everyone. Little chickens. I mean, they go running off. Ooh, we scared. We're going to go running off and we're going to go all to Twitter and Facebook. Jeez. So if you see a bunch of them posted on there, if you happen to encounter their posts, you'll know why. Because they're no longer in CHOP and they got to do something. Oh. The CHOP project is now concluded. While we expect a very small handful of holdouts may try to remain in the CHOP, no further organizing will be occurring to support this presence, and the number on site will be too small to be more than an annoyance for pedestrians rather than a zonal blockade. So they knew they were blocking it. I mean, that's what they had set up, right? The first thing they did was build a wall. Yeah. We have been briefed that full rehousing of SPD East Precinct staff into the station will occur no later than early next week and will be preceded by removal of barriers and the reopening of streets to traffic. So that is already happening. I watched Crowder last night. I'm recording this on Friday night, so it was Thursday night, I guess. And he was going to do a live from CHOP. Well, the problem was CHOP was disbanding. There really wasn't much left there. So they already have started removing the barriers and opening the streets a little bit. So I think probably by now it's maybe drivable. I don't know. Going to take a while to probably get it back in order. But anyway, thank you to everyone for your support over the last 2 weeks and congratulations on your victories. You should feel proud. Let's not let this momentum die. Please remember to continue supporting the kind of revolutionary change we just created by voting for Joe Biden as President of the United States in November and Jay Inslee as Governor of Washington. And despite our occasional differences, we believe Jenny Durkan has stepped up and shown the leadership that will help us heal. We urge you to vote to re-elect her in 2021 because we know how to manipulate her now. Okay, they didn't put that, but that's what they meant. You know it is. And the whole thing here, they think that this is how they're going to change things in the future. So if you think for a minute that things under Joe Biden would just get back to normal, you're mistaken, because these people are going to use this tactic again when it works. If you've ever raised a kid and they hold their breath to get their way or they throw a tantrum, if you let it work just once, they'll keep trying it over and over and over again. Because it worked once. So you got to stop them. And that's what's going to be a real problem there in Washington. I feel bad for you guys if you live in that state because it's not good. And so there you go. The Capitol Hill Occupied Protest Solidarity Committee. So again, I'll leave that down below. And it actually came from We Are the News website. So I will put the notable that it was in. I'll make sure there's a link to that too. So guess what though? This is good news because more than a dozen businesses in Capitol Hill filed a class action lawsuit Wednesday evening against the city of Seattle for how officials handled CHOP. Good for them. I hope they win bigly. Me too. I really do. Go for it. Because, there's no sense in that. And if you have voted in a government that when your personal property, your business, your home is being blocked like that, and you cannot conduct business, you can't even just walk to your house, something's wrong. That's not who you want to have in charge of you and in charge of your protection. I know a lot of people were saying President Trump needs to get in there, he needs to send in the military, it needs to stop it, or the National Guard at least, or something. Well, the problem is, it's really the responsibility of the governor. And I think the reason that he withheld his participation was so that it would show everyone, the governors and the mayors that are so corrupt that they let this garbage go on. And I hope this results in them losing their jobs when it comes time to vote, because there's no sense in it. I just can't believe what those people who live there and work there, I can't believe what they had to go through. All because of those, Democrats that were in charge. And that's just not a good thing. Well, this one right here is about lots of evidence of federal crimes involving some big players. I'm not going to go through all this because there's a whole big bunch here. You need to go through it on your own if you want to. But these are some Black Lives Matter resources that their supporters and protesters can get. They're like spreadsheets and maps of where they're located and all kinds of stuff here. So you can even see funds document and check them all out if you want to find out more about it, because there you go. Those are materials that their people get. So, woohoo, should be interesting. And then speaking of the materials that supporters get, well, if you're interested and you took the oath to be a digital warrior, you might want to look into this. This is some meme ammo. And you can try to help us keep Obamagate trending so that it can continue on. And if you look at this, I'll leave the link to this page down below and you can go through it because there are all kinds of memes. If you go to this website right here, you'll see it's a big repository and it's just like a big, here's one that's on Obamagate. And you can see there's all these memes. You can download one or you can download them all. Pick out the ones you like the best, or like I said, you can even download them all if you want to. But if we can try to get these trending, and like Obama knew, Biden knew, we're trying to make sure we get that. Like here's the Biden knew. And if we can get those and keep them trending, it does make a difference and people start to see them, because when they're trending in Twitter, they appear along the side and more people will get a chance to see them. Okay. So always a good thing to do that. But I'll leave the link to this down below because there's tons of them. As you can see, all different types of topics. So whatever you want to work on, send out information. They do make a difference. Memes are very important. Well, I have a couple more things for you, just two more. This one, 28 million mail-in ballots went missing in the last 4 elections. Thought you'd like to know that, because the mail-in ballots are really the problem. It's not absentee ballots that are the problem. And make a distinction to your friends, because an absentee ballot is where you can't make it there, like if you were going to be gone on vacation, or if you're going to be somewhere else when the voting takes place, or if you're physically not able to make it there, then you request a ballot and it's sent to you. Now, the problem is these mail-in ballots are sent to everyone on the registered voter list. And that's the issue, because some of those people have died in the past year. Some of them haven't voted for a long time. They've moved. Whatever the case is, this should scare all of us, because Between 2012 and 2018, 28.3 million mail-in ballots remain unaccounted for, according to data from the Federal Election Assistance Commission. The missing ballots amount to nearly 1 in 5 of all absentee ballots and ballots mailed to voters residing in states that do elections exclusively by mail. So again, it is not absentee voting. It is where that state sends ballots through the mail to every registered voter. That's where the problem comes in. And if you're talking 1 in 5, that's huge. And that can swing an election easily. And if you don't know where those ballots are going, if they are missing, and that's what it says, they're still missing, and we don't know what happened to them, well, then what's going to keep China from printing up some ballots and sending them over here and changing our election results? And you've got to ask yourself the question, has that happened before? Has that happened in the past? Not just on 2016, but did it happen in previous elections? Who knows? Maybe. Something to keep in mind. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is this. This is like drone footage of the wall from sea to shining sea. So this is really nicely done. This guy took some time. He started at the Pacific Ocean and ended up going over to the Gulf Coast and all the way through. So he took pictures, video, drone footage of the wall being built. It's really exciting to see. It's not all the way yet, but it's amazing to see how much is done and how fast they're putting some stuff up. They've got it into a routine. They know what they're doing, that's for sure. So anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. I'm sorry, it's kind of long, but I started with the chop stuff, and then I found all that other stuff that I really wanted to share with you. So, there we go. That's what I've got for you on this one. I want to thank you for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.